So I'm going to talk about 3 plays. 2 of them are in a double bill, actually, at the Melbourne Theatre Company. They're plays written by Caryl Churchill, Escaped Alone and What If Only, 2 separate plays, both directed by Anne-Louise Sarks, who's the artistic director at that location. I have Nick Tolhurst here with me too, who might want to interject and ask questions at various points. Please do, Nick, if you choose to.
Maybe.
Maybe. So Caryl Churchill is a UK playwright who's in her 80s now, I think 83, and she's got a 60-year history. So there's a huge catalogue of plays. Some of you might know Top Girls or Cloud 9. I've reviewed various Caryl Churchills over the years. So in the first, I'll just talk about her work briefly. So it's generally, well, always non-naturalistic. It experiments with dramatic form and structure. It incorporates eclectic style, so it often shifts around in the mode and shifts in time and location. And she's always, as these plays do, asking probing questions, and she's addressing disquieting subjects which can shock us into awareness and make us think. Yes, think.
And they don't require a lot of staging, from what I understand, either, do they?
No, these are both. Well, the second one has more complex set design, which I don't think it needed. But in the first, in fact, I'll describe a little bit of what it looks like. So it's 45 minutes, Escaped Alone, and it has a fabulous cast of 4 what I'll call older actors. The characters are all over 70. She writes into the script that they're over 70, and these women are sort of 60s,
So she
70s.
specifies that.
She specifies. So the women are that age. They're all retired. They're locals. They're neighbourhood neighbours. Helen Morse, my favourite. As I've said to you, I think I'll listen to her, read the phone book, anything. Deirdre Rubinstein, also wonderful. Katie Hood, who I'd not seen before. Sorry, Kate Hood. Deborah Lawrence, who was known from television as well as theatre. And they are... The 3 of them, Deirdre Rubinstein, Kate Hood and Deborah Lawrence's characters, are neighbours who've known each other a long time, and they engage in this banal afternoon tea chatter about their ordinary lives. And they're sitting in this beautiful idyllic garden designed by Marg Horwell. It's tall grasses, like very tall ryegrasses. I'm surprised no one's sneezing, with little sort of native blooms peeking above them. So they're perched amongst those. And Helen Morse is the outsider, I suppose, the interloper. They invite her in. She's another neighbour. Is that Mrs. Jarrett? In she comes. And she's disconcertingly bird-like and sort of wiry, and she contributes these sort of terse comments that are just short little interjections. But there's more of her to come. So it is wonderful to see 4 characters over 70 years old, female characters, and these actors are absolutely captivating. So they're able to accept the challenge of Churchill's carefully crafted poetic and rhythmic language. It's quite complex and interesting to listen to. It's tightly cued, their dialogue ebbs and flows, and they go off into non sequiturs or even a song. They're overlapping, they're interrupting, just like old friends' conversation. And then suddenly one of them sets off into a monologue that's darker about something that's distressing, phobia of cats or something about their family or being disabled. But Helen Morse's monologues are solo. She steps out out of a complete blackout, which is alarming in itself, and she launches into a description of an apocalyptic world, of the world that is famine and death and destruction and annihilation.
So that must be rather a shock, is it?
It is a
comes
shock,
through, yeah.
Absolutely a shock. So this is quite a different mode, and she's alone, just in a spotlight in darkness, and they've disappeared into the background, and it's chilling, really.
What do you think Churchill's trying to do with this?
I think what she does too is pit the domestic, in counterpoint with the global, the disasters of the world. And these things are, in some places, actually happening. And she's been doing this for many years.
She's very political.
Very political,
yes,
she wrote it with a collectives and feminist collective and various groups like that. And so it is political. It's a very interesting collision of modes, of styles, of forms, of content. So of the 2, that is the more successful of the 2 plays. The second play, 2 short plays this is in the program, What If Only, is about 25 minutes. It's the less successful production. I think it's only 6 pages on the page,
really?
the script itself. The first 10 minutes, however, are gripping. Alison Bell is wonderful. She is known only as S. We don't hear that name, but in the script they're all known by letters. And she's shattered by grief and loss, and she's, in some productions of it, she sits just at a kitchen table talking to her late partner.
Sounding a little like Beckett here.
It is a little like Beckett, but not in the style. It's not absurdist in that way, although the first one has a bit of a sort of, slip between styles like that. And the first several minutes, she's sitting silently alone eating a boiled egg, which is very sort of ordinary, domestic, and silently at her kitchen table. And the lights, Paul Jackson's lights are wonderful. They just shift the light all over this apartment of hers, all the different rooms lighting and darkening and light outside. So days and days and days are passing, months probably. A intense portrait of loneliness and grief.
But no speaking.
No speaking
Wow.
in those minutes. And then multiple actors enter. Now, in the script, there could be just one playing them or several, but there are about 15, I think, who all flood the stage. And they start, as in the first one, giving these sort of apocalyptic grabs or sort of things about futures that might have existed with this partner, what might have happened, but not specifically about the partner, but about the world and how the world could be. It's quite unusual, but it dissipates that intensity of that woman alone, and we lose the sense of her. There's just sort of too many people really on the stage. We're listening to utopian futures or damaged worlds or lost dreams, etc. But it's not as successful as the previous one, but nonetheless, Caryl Churchill
Sounds like an extended tableau. And you also saw Monument.
I did see Monument. It is a play by Emily Sheehan, who I believe was in.
She was a guest of ours last week, yes.
Yeah, wonderful. So this is at Red Stitch Theatre in St Kilda until September the 3rd. Oh, the MTC runs until the 9th of September. And it's interesting because I'm not certain why it's called Monument, perhaps because the lead character becomes the Prime Minister. She's an MP. But people may recognise this particular issue of women going to their hairdressers or their beauty therapist and disclosing personal secrets. I know I did it years ago when I used to go to a hairdresser, and I'd think, why on earth am I telling him that?
It's a confessional.
Well, absolutely,
it's a modern-day
yeah.
confessional,
You're sitting
isn't it?
there with someone touching your hair or your face. But when that client is a person in a position of political power with a public profile and high status, such as the person who's about to become the Prime Minister or is the Prime Minister, the stakes are significantly higher, because if you disclose the wrong thing, you're in trouble, really, aren't you? It could be perilous. In fact, that sort of political disclosure does not happen in this play, which I thought was probably something that could have been followed through. They're more personal disclosures. So this is the scenario in Emily Sheehan's play. The recently elected PM, Edith Aldridge, played by Sarah Sutherland, who I'm delighted to see on stage again. She wakes up in her pink-draped, Juji luxury hotel suite. It's a day of her maiden speech as the PM to find Rosie, who's played by Julia Hanna, who is wonderful. She's an unfamiliar, not her usual, young makeup artist, and she's a perky millennial, this young woman who, I'll say she always has a bit of advice that seems to be a Kardashianism, I'll call it, something she's found on memes online or something. And she's got to transform Edith into a glamorous, powerful icon for this first speech as the leader of the nation. So what follows is an intense and sometimes hilarious status struggle or game between pert Rosie, who's 22-ish, and the brusque, entitled, demanding Edith, whose walls start being dismantled brick by brick, really, as Rosie cajoles her and gives her rather blunt advice or criticism. Oh, your skin's quite dry. Do you have a
So she's
skincare
obviously
regime?
got no fear or respect
fear.
for power or status or
She
anything.
thinks
yes.
she's an icon. She knows her, knows nothing about politics, but she knows her as a sort of fashion icon because she's
But
considered
she's
that.
talking to her girl-to-girl sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you sleep on your face, she says. Oh, I can tell. Oh, you don't have a skincare regime. You don't do anything, do you? Do you wash? It's very interesting. So for about 100 minutes, we're watching her being transformed from bare skin, bared hair in her white robe into the fashion icons. So we're watching the colour palette choice and the applications and blendings and contouring.
Which would be fascinating in itself.
It's absolutely fascinating. I love it. Not that I use it much, but I know quite a bit about it. It's wonderful to watch. And Sheehan's well-observed dialogue is often very funny, and her characters' vastly differing behaviours and foibles and skills make them great counterpoints for each other. Sarah Sutherland is wonderful, credible as this character who's rather brusque.
But again, this one sort of didn't quite meet its target sort of thing?
No, for me, I think I expected from what I'd read about it that it was going to go further into her disclosing political secrets or something, that would cause a disaster. Also, none of her minders are there. They're all stuck in Melbourne waiting for
That's
plane.
why the young girls.
That's why the girls there. Everyone's missing. All her advisors who
yeah.
picked her clothes and her look and her speech, etc., aren't there. But I can't imagine how any PM's bunch of minders would not have arrived with her.
Canberra fog, whatever, yes.
Yeah, but still, why wouldn't they all be together? But I expected there to be more socio-political feminist issues, penetrated, and they're
maybe
not.
That's material for another.
Might be another play.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, it's diverting, and there's two fine performances in that.
So we're just going to play a track and we come back with what's coming up with Nick.
And Kate.
And Kate.
I'll be here.
Minutes left, and we're going to find out all about what's coming up. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you very much, Philippa. I like to do a couple of plugs. First thing I would like to plug is the Geelong Arts Centre has been incredibly refurbished with millions of dollars worth of work done it. And they're having a grand opening festival which starts today and it runs to the 23rd of September. And it's got people like Missy Higgins, Opera Australia, Belvoir Street Theatre, an awful lot of stuff. So if you're in and around Geelong, or even you can just make that hour-long journey on the train, get down there.
Absolutely.
I'd go on the train. It's so much easier.
An
I
easy
did
train
yesterday,
trip.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's like $4.
Wow, that's good.
Anywhere in Victoria, I think it's like $4 to get on a train.
Wow, and if you're over 60 on a senior thing, you can get freebies. And,
Get on the train. It's so much easier.
Absolutely.
Anyway, what do you
I think one of the things I'm seeing this coming week and reviewing, For the Age, I'll just let people know, keep an eye on The Age.
Yes.
I'm back writing for The Age. Becoming Eliza with Anna O'Byrne, who I think you said...
Yeah, Julie Horton interviewed her on here
to her?
last week, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's just one night, next Saturday the 26th, but I think that might be going to Geelong as well. I'm trying to remember what their regional was. But I've a few other things are coming. There's a couple of things. La Mama, My First Bike, which is Maud Davey and Jane Bailey, I think is going to be fabulous, opens Wednesday. I also saw Cactus, which I'll talk about in a couple of weeks. It's going to do an on-screen season at La Mama as well. Moulin Rouge, I'm going to see on the 24th. It opens again. I didn't see it the first time round. There was a bit of a hiccup. Friday is Divas with Bernadette Robinson. And
Is that a season?
Yes. So I will let you know about that. And Becoming Eliza, as I said, and the Julius Caesar, which you were talking about.
Yeah,
earlier.
the Melbourne Shakespeare Company has its season opens on the 25th of August at 45 downstairs, and it's a daring new interpretation of the play, which, from memory studying it, is a little staid, I thought, when I was a young person.
I think it's a shorter play than most of the others. This one's directed by Richard Murphy. Now, I'll tell you what, that's a good thing.
Good.
So
and bring that really alive, yes.
Bring that alive. That's
too
really,
brute, yes.
Indeed. And so it's a big week this week, for this particular week for openings.
You'll need naps every day, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So next week we've got Tommy Salmon. About the unique bar, gallery and performance space Midnight in Paris, Naretha Williams Festival and events coordinator for the upcoming Darragh Bennett Fuse Festival. Angelo Gio, director of the Italian Cultural Festival, will talk about the